So our focus of today's work is looking at where we're squaring binomials. Because yesterday we were multiplying pairs of binomials. Today we're looking at what happens if we try to square it. Now the first thing I need to tell you that it is not, is I'll tell you right now, it is not going to be x squared plus 25. Exponents do not distribute to addition and subtraction like that. So because of that addition being inside the parentheses, it's not this. All right, so then how do we do it then? Remember that to square something means to multiply it by itself. And so I'm actually going to write this out the long way as x plus 5 times x plus 5. Okay, so now that you see it like that, you know how to multiply those together, right? That's what we did yesterday, so go ahead and quickly multiply those and see what you get. So when we multiply those together and simplify, because remember we do have to simplify in the end, you end up with x squared plus 10x plus 25. And so then we go and we tackle the second one. And again, in order to do that work, you'd actually have to write out x minus 7 times x minus 7, which when you multiply it all out, before we simplify and combine the like terms, notice we have 2 of those minus 7s. And the negative 7 times negative 7 is a positive 49. And so notice the sign ends up giving us a negative 14x in the middle, but a positive 49 on the end. So watch your signs as you do these in particular. So for this first one, when we do x minus 11 squared, yes, please make sure that you are in the habit of thinking of it as x minus 11 times x minus 11. If you're thinking of it that way, and actually writing it out that way, you're going to save yourself a lot of potential trouble down the line. When we then do the multiplication and the combining of like terms, you should end up with x squared minus 22x plus 121. Check your signs, check your numbers, of course. Same thing happens for that second one on this page. In that case, when all is said and done, we end up with x squared plus 18x plus 81. Now, if you're really on top of it, you might have already noticed some patterns in these numbers. Here's all of the problems and answers that we just got. Take a look over these. Compare the original problem to the final answer. Can you see some patterns in there? Notice the last number on the right-hand side. That number is always whatever the number is in here squared, which, by the way, since we're squaring a number, yes, it also then gives us a positive in each of those cases too. So each of these answers ended with the number squared. Yeah, the other one is, look at the middle numbers and compare those to the original numbers. Notice, 10 is 5 times 2. Negative 7 times 2. Negative 11 times 2 is negative 22. And 9 times 2 is 18. So for every single one of these, if I wanted to go quickly from that original problem into my final answer, I am multiplying the 9 by 2 to get the 18, and I am squaring it to get the 81. And that's true every single time with these. Because of that, we can actually factor something that looks like this. So go ahead and write down this problem, and I'm going to show you why we can then factor this. All right, so in order to factor this one, we need a different method. Now, of course, remember factoring means introducing the parentheses. But for this one, I can't just divide every term by the same thing. You notice it doesn't work that way, because I can't divide an x out of everything. I can't divide a number out of everything. But you'll notice here that there is some number where if I multiply it by 2, I get 8. But if I square it, I get 16. What is that number that I can multiply by 2 to get 8 and square to get 16? 4. And so based on that, then, we can write this in factored form, because if that's our result, we know it would have come from x plus 4 squared. Because notice, I multiply that number by 2, I get the middle number, I square it, I get the last number. And so, by noticing that pattern, we now can take anything that looks like this, as long as it fits this pattern, and we can factor it into this form. And that's what I'd like you to please do with these two. Please factor each of these. So, for that first one, again, we're looking to see what two numbers double to give me 16, but square to give me 64. And you notice that'd have to be 8. Because 8 times 2 is 16, and 8 squared is 64. So, that factors to be x plus 8 squared. That's our final answer there. That's our factored form because I introduced the parentheses. Same kind of thing happens on the second one, where I know I got an x and a number squared. But what is that number going to be on the inside? Negative 3. Yes, and the hardest part about that one is saying that it's got to be negative. But it does have to be negative because this is a negative 6. And negative 6 divided by 2 gives me negative 3. And of course, 3 squared is still a positive 9. All right, I think these are pretty easy, but I'm going to give you 2 just because, hey, I like it when they're easy. Okay, so for our answers then, our first one, you should have gotten x plus 10 squared. Then for the second one, you should have gotten x minus 12 squared.